This channel is for educational purposes only. Please do your own due diligence before making any investment decisions.
Hi, this is Joe Rabil. So what we're going to do today, we're going to talk about how to use swing charts in multiple time frames. All right, this is not something that I've talked about on this channel before, and I think it'll give you some insights onto how to use the price action to really give you a sense of what's taking place. And then on top of that, we'd end up using the indicators after this takes place. All right, so you need to know this before you really get into the indicators. So let's go ahead and get going. Now, before we do, if you have an interest in getting started with some of these techniques, I would suggest clicking the link in the description, and you can find out more about the book. Also, if you do enjoy this content, please hit the like button and also subscribe. All right, I'd like to start this discussion on swing trading by showing you a few patterns that are very key to when we're looking for trend change. All right, now there are basically two ways that, and we're just going to show you a bullish situation. The examples I'm going to use are going to be bullish, but we want to know how to do it with tops as well. So my suggestion is, after you've learned what you've learned today, go look for 5 or 10 of these on both the long side, reversals to the upside, and also reversals to the downside. Okay. Now we look at the bull alert. It's essentially showing us when we want to start watching a stock a little bit more closely. And the reason is that we were making a pattern of lower highs and lower lows. And what happened is we went to a new low here. All right. But then immediately went back and made a new high. So we go from a new low. So this would be lower low to higher high. Okay. So one of the things you could do is go back through and just mark all the charts up and say, you know, lower high, this would be a lower high, right? Another lower low, okay, and then higher high. So just mark up your charts that way so you can really get a feel for what you're doing. Now, what I want to explain is once you've gotten to a bull alert status, all right, then we'd be looking for a pullback, counter trend little, test, essentially, all right? And that shows up on this side over here with this little pullback here. Now, I think this is key because this would be almost considered the 2 in a 1, 2, 3 change in trend. So a lot of times, let's say you have your trend line in place, right? You break the trend line and then you pull back. That would be the 2. All right, so we want to know that. We also want to kind of recognize that this can play in conjunction with a 1, 2, 3, but it can also be used all by itself without trend lines. All right, so some people find that a little bit more attractive. All right, so now we get this pullback, and then if we make a move back up through this horizontal red line, which is the prior peak, right, the prior peak before we pulled back, then we've confirmed a bull trend. All right, we've now switched the trend from bearish to bullish. Now, there's another way this can play out, and that is where you make it, instead of going to a lower low, you actually make a higher low, right? Higher low here, and then you make a higher high. All right, so that's the same. So this is a higher high after a higher low, and then you make another higher low and another higher high, and that is the confirmation of a trend change. And why is that? Well, the reason is that we now have a series of higher highs and higher lows. We made 2 of them, right? So that's enough when you make, so that's 1 and this is 2, all right? And this is 1 and this is 2. We've now kind of gotten enough action to our, and one of the ways, the simple way to do this in your own head is to, if you can draw a trend line, all right, if you can draw a real trend line, then you know you're in business. Like if I'm looking at this, without this last move to the upside, we can't draw a trend line without this next higher low, all right? So just kind of keep that in mind. But this is the basic formula for a swing chart when we're looking for a change in trend to the upside. Let's go ahead and give you some examples in real life of what took place over the course of the last year. So I'm going to go back on the monthly chart, and you've got this big, huge area where you've been moving sideways, and then you break out through the 200 mark, and you go from a new low to a new high. All right, so this was a lower low, and then we went to a higher high. Right, so now we make a really strong, powerful follow through that prior high, and then we pull back to the breakout area. Right, so now we're sitting around this 200 mark. Now, what we have is a bull alert. All right, this is only a bull alert. It would have to come back up through these highs here to become bull confirm. But when you have a really strong move and you're paying attention to momentum, you can take a look at this pullback. Because what I say is this is basically that 2. So we want to be looking at 2 here and then go back and see what was going on this time frame. If you notice what took place, I'm going to zero in. So that was this pullback here. We were making a pattern of lower highs and lower lows, boom, boom, boom. And then we make a lower low and a higher high right there. And then we make a higher low, and then we come back up through. Right about the beginning of 2023, we confirm the trend on the weekly. All right, so that is the weekly time frame. So in the middle, let's just go to the beginning of 2023. So right about here. So we don't wait for it to come back and cross 277. You see what I mean? We're going to go ahead and get in down around 237. So we've saved ourselves a significant amount of money. We can also lower the risk in the trade by using the average true range on this time frame, or just using the swings going back. So this is just a great way to think about this in two time frames. When you get strength on one side that gives you a bull alert and then a pullback, you can go to the smaller time frame and look for a trend reversal. Let's go to GILD. So GILD, I think, is interesting from a standpoint of when this broke out through the 90 level. Look at how big of a base this had. You can see all the time it spent trying to get through 90 from 2017, 2018, all the way through until 2024. It finally got through there at the end of 2024. But look at what happened on the weekly chart. Now, what happened let me just show you on the monthly. We went from a new low to a new high. So this move to the upside through into the breakout was a bull alert. So we have a bull alert on the higher time frame. Okay, and then notice what happened on the weekly. When it broke out, it had already gone from a new low, and then it made a new high coming back up through the 90 mark, and then made the higher low, and then broke out here. So right at the 100 mark here, we have a bull confirmed on the weekly. We have confirmed that the trend is to the upside. We don't have that confirmation yet on the monthly chart, but we have a massive base breakout with a bull alert, and we get the confirmation on this time frame. Now, I'm not going to go do that, but one thing you could do is say when this breaks out and you want to look at this higher low here, all right, you got this breakout. You could look at this higher low and maybe get in this in the mid 90s by using a reversal on this time frame. Like I said, I don't really want to get into that right this second because I got a lot of examples, but you can keep going down to a lower time frame and use that pullback, or what I call almost the 2 in the 1, 2, 3. It's not really, because this is just using the swing chart, but we want to be looking for that higher low. So we get that higher low, we can go to this time frame and look for a higher low on that time frame. We can keep going down in time frames until we've met what we're looking for. Now this one's a little bit different. So look at this break below all of these important lows. You see this low here, another couple lows here, another low here. You break that to the downside, and then you reverse back up and you kind of go right up, back up through those. Well, look at what happened on the daily chart. The daily chart went from a new high to a new low. Now, this is different, all right? You got to understand this. We went from a new high to a new low. So what was this setting up for? A potential bearish signal. If this would have made a lower high and then made a lower low, we would have had a confirmed bear, and then this big base would look like it's breaking to the downside. All right, but instead it made a higher low. So this ends up being higher low, okay, and then a higher high. All right, so we refer to this as a failed bear, right? Instead of being a bearish signal, it fails and comes back up through here. That's actually a very bullish sign. And now we know that this is a failed breakdown on this chart. All right, so we have that as a potential opportunity as well. So keep an eye out for that in addition. Now, look at the way this played out. Look at this huge reversal on the monthly chart. You see how this was made on the weekly chart. This is making lower highs, lower highs, lower highs, and lower lows. And then it finally made a lower low, higher high, and then we get the pullback. See this pullback right around the 50 mark in 2025. So we've gotten a bull alert, and now we have a pullback. Well, look at what takes place on the daily chart. We make a lower low, and then we go to a higher high here, and then we make a higher low, and then we come up through. So right around the 57, 58 mark, all right, we have confirmation of trend change. All right, so we know that right in this area here, before we get at the completion of the reversal, we get confirmation of a pretty powerful signal here on the daily chart. All right, now let me give you one more example. Look at what happened on AMD. So AMD is making these kind of lower highs, lower lows, and then we get this strong bull alert signal at 117 back in early 2025. And then look at what this does. This goes from a lower low to a higher high, right? So let me just make sure you can see this. Lower low here, we make a lower low, then we make a higher high, then we make a higher low. Now during that higher low, we're into June, all right, and we can go down to the hourly chart and you can see a reversal taking place here, and we can get in as this is turning up, all right? We can play this to the upside. So anyway, these are things you want to be on the lookout for using these in multiple time frames. Look for bull alerts on one time frame, go to the lower time frame, see if you can't find a confirmed signal. Always play off the higher low if you can, and I think you can find this a huge advantage when you start overlaying the indicators on top. All right, do this first, understand this first, and then do the price action, the moving averages, the indicators like MACD and ADX, and you're going to have a massive advantage over people you're trying to trade against. Okay, that's it for today. Click the link in the description if you want to learn more about some of these techniques. Have a great trading day.